What about the money? Well, it's coming from here. In part, of course, not just from this woman. In part, billionaire Walmart heiress promotes nationwide anti-Trump protests. 76-year-old Christy Walton has aligned herself with No Kings, an organization planning mass protests across the country this Saturday. I think, don't quote me, but I think she's got around 20 billion. In fact, maybe it says in one of the articles 20 billion or somewhere close. And she's only one of the family. You want to have a look at this beautiful little thing? Yay! Yay. Walmart heiress Christy Walton, one of the richest women in America, has joined a small group of billionaires speaking out against President Donald Trump. So just a small group of billionaires. Capitalism like this, folks, making mortal gods out of some of us is, and we have no way to defend ourselves against it, is so far beyond wrong and acceptable. Just what the whims of some of these people, they can just decide anything, and then every single one of us has to suffer. There's nothing we can do. There's no king to push back, but there's no royal family to divest them of their wealth. There's nothing. And those things in and of themselves are not panacean, but without the white positive ideology engendered by the Go Free dialogic, there's nothing. 76-year-old Walton, who is worth and has $19.3 billion, paid to take out a full-page advertisement in New York Times on Sunday, calling on readers to mobilize on Saturday, June 14. The advertisement appears to be an escalation of one she paid for in March, also in the Times. At the top of the ad, so imagine, if you will, that an article in the New York Times is the dust, that piece of dust that has landed on top of the point of the Great Pyramid. And the rest of that is the wealth that she's putting toward anti-white endeavors. Now, I actually heard a conservative attempting to claim that the reason she's doing this, and by the way, this is another conservative, another female. She's not quite a young one. I think she might be in her 30s. Not like the usual dilettante-ish 20s. She's still a dilettante, though. But true to conservatism, where does she look for the meaning? Money. That's all that matters to selfish, individualistic, conservative white people. That's all that matters. That, and of course, non-white people, because they are, the vast majority of them, also anti-white, just not as anti-white as the people in the streets in LA. But she said, well, why would she do this? It's got to be money. It's got to be the tariffs. It's got to be because the Walmart business is either going to have to raise prices a little bit to cover tariffs, start businesses, production in the United States, which is what tariffs are meant to engender, right? They either have to pass the cost on to their customers or eat the cost. So therefore, it's been figured out. Now we know why. Now we know. The problem, of course, in conservative circles is that you're making this argument to people who will commiserate on the basis of economy with our victimizer. That cuck audience is saying, well, that makes sense. That makes perfect. She's doing it for money. That's why I do everything in my life. So that makes perfect. So then there's really nothing you could do. How angry can you be against someone, and therefore what actions are you ready to take? What sacrifices are you ready to make against someone that you sympathize with. None. That's why they don't do anything. That's why the streets are never full of really angry conservatives. They're agreeing with their victimization. But here's the rub. She's not involved with the business at all. And of course, we know whether she had involvement with Walmart, the business, at all or not, it's not going to be a $2 increase on blouses that is going to cause this 20 billionaires to go after the president, to go after Western civilization. Nah, it's the ideology of anti-whiteism. It's commiserating with other anti-whites against the West. Now, this woman, remember, we talk about and go free. What makes an anti-white? Articulate it lucidly for you. She has all the money in the world. What doesn't she have? Well, unless you're Stevie Wonder, she's obviously going to be, over the course of her life, wildly jealous of good-looking white people. Could you imagine somebody with billions of dollars looking out at white people who maybe even live in a trailer? Young women that are gorgeous? Could you imagine how hateful this could make somebody? Especially if they're never taught how to deal with that feeling. Jealousy and envy. It's so perfect to have somebody here with $20 billion to be able to identify that behind her anti-whiteism is deep jealousy and envy. Probably jealousy and envy as well for the peaceful lives that ordinary folk are able to live, as peaceful as one could imagine, in white areas. That might be why she wants to destroy those areas. The quiescence that you might have when you have a little house and maybe a lake nearby, and you work your job and you don't have to think anything more about all of the employees and their lives and what they're doing and who's trying to cut your throat. You're able to just come from work home. You can eat a meal. You could take the kids out to the lake, and you and your missus could sit out and watch the sunset as the children are catching fireflies. Do you think that happens in Christie's home life? It's deep jealousy and envy. At the top of the ad are the words "No Kings," which appear to reference a political organization that's coordinating hundreds and hundreds of anti-Trump and therefore anti-white race. Even though people aren't going to be mentioning, that's the reality. Protests across the United States this Saturday, June 14, the same day Trump is slated to host a military parade in Washington, D.C. As an aside, they are train by way of a train, lots of equipment for the parade. Conservatives, and here we talk about the threat of merchants on the right, are all over the internet showing videos of trains moving APCs and tanks and etc. And they're claiming that war is coming. It's this equipment being shipped for the military parade. Also, of course, videos from other periods in history, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, so that they can gin up audience. They can gin up interest in themselves and income for themselves. Very little believable anymore on the internet. Organizers of the counter-protest told Axios they are expecting this to be the largest single-day rally since the start of the administration. No King spokesperson Andrew Cook told Forbes there will be more than 1,800 events across the country. So we're really approaching thousands, really approaching 2,000 events across the country. And this is just this institution. There might be others that are participating as well, but not under the umbrella of No Kings. The group is not planning a protest in D.C. as part of their plan to make action everywhere else. Well, of course, they're not going to be given a permit.
I have a permit.
This just says I can do what I want
to operate in D.C. during this military parade. And I could see that, of course, I could see them deciding instead to use their money and resources elsewhere, where there would be far less resistance, and they can make a much bigger show of it. In America, quote, in America, we don't do kings. Don't fall for the trap. Don't start defending a monarchy. Don't start defending, certainly don't, I know the schmucks will be ready to defend tyranny. Don't defend Republican government. Don't start giving people an education on a Republican governance. Don't start the conversation about democracy or no democracy. The Republican Party pushes democracy as much as the Democrats do now. Quote, they've defied our courts, deported Americans. Now, this is a bold-faced lie, and this is how you get people ginned up to do things who are anti-white within the narrative, to do things that they otherwise would not do. These people who are getting in the way of anti-whiteism, the eudaimonia of anti-whiteism, their argument, of course, not ours. These people who are getting in the way of the eudaimonia of anti-whiteism, they're just defying the courts. They're not appealing and winning some and losing some and appealing again and acting within the purview of each of those institutions. No, they have no lawful right to be carrying out these activities. Attacked or disappeared people off the streets. They've disappeared people. They haven't arrested, processed, and deported. No, they're disappearing people. They've attacked our civil rights and slashed our services. So your right to everything that a citizen should have who has responsibilities, whose family has been in the military for generations, maybe died, maimed, etc., who has served in various ways, obeying the law, and etc. You have a right to all of their stuff. You have a right for them to pay the white race to bear the lion's share of paying for all of your GIBs, all of your social welfare programs. They're specifically saying slashed our services. They're telling you everything you need to know about them. And they're using this hyperbolic speech, being as histrionic as they can, and with demagoguery aforethought, ramping up the population to act maniacally like anti-white terrorists, to effectuate an anti-white terror that they know will be received by fools as theft, as a run-of-the-mill riot, as a run-of-the-mill looting. The advertisement also lists 8 different principles Walton supporters, from caring for veterans and children to defending against the aggression of dictators. We are people of the United States of America. The honor, dignity, and integrity of the country are not for sale. So, does this sentence mean, and I think it does, that with her money, I was just talking about the pyramid, this advertisement is the mote of dust on top of the point of the capstone of the Great Pyramid. All of the rest of that is money that she's putting into anti-white endeavors. Only looking at Soros, only looking at some of these other billionaires. There's a handful over here behaving in an anti-white way. What's your problem? The anti-whiteism is the problem. People from all walks of life support no kings because our country was founded on the idea that presidents answer to the people. These are straw man arguments. not to authoritarian overreach or violence, says Randy Weingarten, president of American Federation of Teachers, one of the organizations partnering with No Kings to organize the anti-Trump protests. According to a person with knowledge of Walton's thinking, who spoke on the condition of anonymity, the ad, which ran nationwide, is a personal message. So a billionaire, you just focus on Christie by herself. You imagine the power of having a billionaire emotionally involved in your ideology. What would that mean for us? You're not going to force billionaires to do anything. You're not going to have enough guys march or get enough votes for brown Republicans to force billionaires to do anything. Ideology does this. Ideology is what's manipulated these people. She feels passionate. She could spend all day long with a fleet of different massage therapists working on her, the best chefs in the world bringing her the best tasting things in the world. She could do it in the most scenically stunning environment that the planet could offer. And yet she's enraptured by ideology like every other human being. And what's the ideology? Well, until Go Free and white positivity, there was nothing to contest and undermine anti-whiteism. So it's anti-whiteism. Imagine the power we would wield here with one billionaire being enraptured by white positivity. Or you can keep with these old methods and continue to lose. A personal message from the billionaire encouraging people to engage peacefully and civilly in next weekend's events on June 14. I doubt she's dumb enough to think that it's all going to be peaceful. Her message promotes, in fact, when money from Soros is followed, check this out for yourself. You see the money trickling in the tune of millions, of many tens of millions, into some of the most violent organizations. In fact, we just had an entity that was financed by the United States government and currently holds tens of millions of our tax dollars. That is AntiWhite, and reportedly, check it out for yourself, financing a lot of what's going on in LA and some of these states. Her message promotes peaceful dialogue and the sharing of diverse views and voices. As a billionaire would have somebody smart writing this. She condemns violence in all forms and continues to emphasize the importance of listening to one another. Would she send people out after watching what's happening in Portland, in Seattle, in Los Angeles, in Chicago, in New York, in Austin, in Dallas? Would she be sending people out, seeing that's what's happening, if she actually condemns violence? This is about a war on the West. This is about a war on white people, of whom she is hateful. Walmart has publicly clashed with the Trump administration over threats of sweeping international tariffs. And so this is probably where the cuck argument is outlined for cucks when they read this. I could just see right now the cucks, when they get to this paragraph, they're like, oh, I've got it. Now I know why it's happening. Last month, Trump threatened Walmart, the nation's largest retailer, after the CEO, Doug McMillon, warned about raising prices in response to Trump's tariffs. Eat the tariffs, Trump said in a Truth Social post, calling out Walmart. I'll be watching, and so will your customers, and so will the customers of Target, and so will the customers generally across the country, who I think most of whom would rather have smaller entities than these mega monstrosities that continue to grow. At this rate, you're going to end up with entire shopping centers. That's one gigantic Walmart, and everything will be for sale there, including the petrol. I don't think anybody wants that. So what is the conservatives? What are they saying? Walmart heiress Christy Walton's anti-Trump ad. You ready? What's the backlash? Does anybody know? Does anybody want to guess? What's going to be the conservative backlash to this? What are they going to do? What are those bright thinkers thinking? I know what we'll do. You're right. They're going to try boycotting.
Of Donald Trump are advocating for a constitutional amendment to extend presidential term limits.
Woo.
Introduced by Representative Andy Ogles, the proposed resolution would allow a president to serve up to 12 years, potentially enabling Trump to remain in office until 2033 if he wins re-election. While Trump has not formally backed the initiative, his comments have fueled speculation about its viability. Amending the Constitution is a vigorous process, requiring a supermajority in Congress and approval of 3/4 of the states.
Walmart could become the target. That's an interesting way to put that sentence. I wonder if the writer meant that. Walmart could become the target of a MAGA-led boycott after an heiress to the retail fortune funded a full-page ad in the New York Times promoting a nationwide protest movement against President Trump. The ad, run by the No Kings movement, calls on America to mobilize on Saturday, Flag Day and Trump's birthday, in order to, quote, reject authoritarianism. And there's that lovely woman. Though she holds no active role in Walton's operations, she retains 1.9% stake in the company. So in other words, this isn't about money. You can boycott it all you want. That's like boycotting Amazon. You're not going to do a damn bit of good. No Kings movement is planning roughly 1,500 protests to counter Saturday's military parade. The ad, it reads, great, a left-wing billionaire feels like burning some of her inheritance for the PR stunt. In the time it took that person to write that, the blink of an eye, she has already earned an interest more than it costs. All that she's doing right now. Can you do math? It's not going to change the fact that over 77 million Americans voted for mass deportations, border security, and America First trade policies. Their vote won't matter. By the way, we were talking about votes earlier, and I was saying it's not just the individual Manuel who might not be a citizen and go into a booth and vote. He still gets a vote, whether he does that or not. Because the more Manuels who are not legally citizens in the United States are in any state, the more congressional representatives there are at the federal level, the more that they are voting for more anti-whiteism. That's one of the biggest tricks they pull. Don't even need these people to be citizens. Don't even need them to vote. And they'll be able to use their presence to magnify their votes for anti-whiteism. Mass deportations, a mandate that the Trump administration is committed to using every level of executive power to deliver on. We're still not even at the level that Obama was deporting people. Why is that? Because anti-whiteism is incremental. It's marching on. It's marching forward. It's taking more territory. It doesn't cede and lose anything because it hasn't come across anything that defeats it outside of the work that we're doing here. They sometimes change the veneer, but the paint job really doesn't matter. The names they call it, irrelevant. Reflect merely upon the MC. Kari Lake, a former Arizona gubernatorial candidate and now a White House special advisor. Oh, God. Do you shop at Walmart, she asked. Representative Anna Paulina Luna wrote all of these non-whites. You know, this Anna Paulina Luna was with like 3 other non-white female Republicans in an interview like 2 months ago. And they were talking about the Democrats, the Democrats, the evil Democrats. And one of them, it wasn't Anna Paulina Luna. She was sitting right beside the woman, I think. Didn't flinch. None of them flinched when the anti-white, non-white Republican woman said something about old white guys and as a pejorative. That's your new Republican Party. That would be your, could you imagine California becoming red? That doesn't mean anything positive. Walmart, quote, Walmart heiress Christy Walton is funding full-page color ads in the New York Times for No Kings nationwide counter-protest scheduled for Trump's birthday, organized by the far-left group Indivisible. Looks like the Walmart dynasty is big mad about China tariffs, the lawmaker wrote. Well, good for you. Anna Paulina Luna, I'm going to go ahead and guess, go out on a limb, that she's not going to come out strong against anti-whiteism, especially when there's no flinch when her congresswoman sitting right beside her used old white males as a pejorative. The hashtag @boycott_Walmart started gaining traction on X on Wednesday, with some social media users branding Christy Walton a traitor. A traitor to what? To what? An opinion? That's all America is to these people. It's just an opinion. How can you be a traitor to an opinion? A little taste of coffee.
Spanish. Could be Italian, but I doubt it.
Boycott Walmart, wrote longtime Trump supporter Roger Stone, as somebody who is brain damaged for sure. Yeah, and I think, and I think, shut up. The Walmart heiress subsidizes insurrection. Next up, peaceful protests outside all of their stores. Ooh, yeah, that's going to just shut her right down. That'll shut the billionaire heiress right down. To encourage people not to shop there. Essentially, what left-wing stooges did to Tesla. Let's go. No, they were blowing them up. They were blowing up Teslas. They were blowing them up in people's yards. They were running people off the road and getting out of their car and walking up to their car. Numerous videos of this. And shouting them down as racists and fascists and supporters of Adolf Hitler. They were setting fire to Teslas at dealerships. They were vandalizing Tesla dealerships. It's very personal because it comes from a very personal place, righteous indignation. Christie has provided no funding to organizations or individuals involved in the demonstrations in Los Angeles or other cities, as far as you know. Think about how hard it was to track down the funding from people like Soros. Organizers of the No Kings protest say the decision to forego a demonstration in the nation's capital is intentional, casting it as a refusal to legitimize what they call a political spectacle. Now, that's preposterous. When you have tanks rolling down the street, you're not going to be able to get in front of them for what they claim they're trying to do here. Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary, said on Wednesday that the president supports the right of Americans to peacefully protest, and that is not the majority of the behavior that we have seen taking place in Los Angeles. All right. So what have we discovered here as we have gone through? We see the flaccid cuck response that, hey, you need to stand in front of Walmart and tell people not to shop there. You need to withhold your couple $100 from Walmart a year to undermine that institution, to push back against them. What we see here is from the ground, the psychotic, malevolent, firebomb wielding murderer and disfigurer is motivated by anti-whiteism. The guys behind the scenes who are providing the intelligence of where the agents are, who their names are, where they're going to pick people up, and therefore where their families are with their name. Anti-white, hiding in the darkness. The glitterati in Hollywood and the music industry, including Nashville, coming together and waging war against Western kind with anti-white preposterous arguments and claims of facts that are as spurious as turtles or beavers running the world, which might actually be a little bit more interesting. In governance, police chiefs, mayors, governors, judges, anti-white, all motivated by anti-white ideology. And in the background, some known, some not known, the billionaires who have every reason to enjoy every scintilla of their life to the maximum of human Western kind's innovation for luxury. Because no matter how wealthy they are, they still die. With all that wealth, every single second could be spent in pleasure. But it's not. She's tied to all of these others by anti-whiteism, a single ideology that is defeated by the go-free dialogic. You're not going to be able to take over the government with force. You're not going to be able to reclaim our destiny with brown Republicans, non-white Republicans, most of whom are anti-white anyhow. You're not going to be able to vote them out. You're not going to be able to violent them out. You're not going to be able to impoverish them into submission. There's only one means to recapture our destiny: white positivity, the tools we use here in service to white well-being.